QuNect SQL is a great tool to learn the SQL language as it applies to QuickBase, or to develop your SQL statements before putting them into production. You can find QuNect SQL by clicking on Products and then scrolling down a little bit until you get to QuNect SQL. You want to click on the Download Now button, and that'll bring a setup file to your computer that you can run to install QuNect SQL. There's a page here that you can get to by clicking on this link. This describes a little bit about how to use QuNect SQL, but we're going to cover that in more detail here in this video. I want to remind you that QuNect SQL is free, but you have to have either a trial or a perpetual license to QuNect ODBC for QuickBase. You can get that here by clicking on this Download Now button. QuNect SQL is only available for Windows. So you download this installer, and then you're going to want to watch this Getting Started video. But most of you who are interested in QuNect SQL have probably already have QuNect ODBC for QuickBase installed. Once you've downloaded and run the setup program, you'll see QuNect SQL. Here it is. Since you've already installed QuNect ODBC for QuickBase, you'll have a list of DSNs here, one of which will be QuickBase via QuNect 64-bit or another DSN that you may have custom created. But in this case, we're going to use the DSN name that is installed when you install QuNect ODBC for QuickBase. And if you've watched the Getting Started video, you've configured this with your username, password, and other information that allows it to connect to your particular instance of QuickBase. Just click Connect. You'll see a list of tables. This list of tables is here in this drop-down. Now we're going to choose the Projects table, and then you have now a series of buttons here that let you create different SQL statements. The SQL statements will appear in this window right here. Whenever you press one of these buttons, you're going to have more text added to this window at whatever point the cursor is. So right now I'm just going to click on Select, and as you can see I have a select statement and the cursor is there at the end. If I press Select again, I get another SQL statement. If I just want to have one SQL statement, I can highlight everything in the window and then press a button, and everything that was highlighted will be replaced with what the button produces. Then I can check the SQL syntax, and then I can actually execute the statement, and I'll get a results window like this. If I hit a couple of hard returns, I can create another select statement, but this time I'm going to only ask for the project name field. So I highlight the project name field here, and then I press the select button. And as you can see, I have a new select statement that instead of asking for all the fields with the asterisk character, it asks for just one column. Now, if I press check SQL syntax, I get an error because I have two SQL statements that are together, and it doesn't understand two one after the other. So if I highlight just the second one and do check SQL syntax, then I'm okay. Then I can click execute SQL, and as you can see, I have just the one column project name. You can actually have multiple columns. You can select, hold the shift key down and click and select multiple columns, and then we're going to create a select statement that has those three columns. And if we run that one, as you can see, we have three columns. Let's look at how to select fields here in the Fields box. If I hold down the Shift key and click, then I'll select a range of values. If I don't use any Control or Shift key, I can just click and get one field. I hold the Shift key down and click, and then I get a range from one to the other. Now, if I want to eliminate some of these fields, I can hold the Control key down and click, and that will toggle off a field, or it'll toggle it on, depending on whether it's on or off. So that's the way you can manage selecting which fields you want in your SQL statement. Now let's move on to the insert statement. So I'm going to highlight the select statement. I'm going to use the delete key, get rid of it, and then we're going to press the insert key. And as you can see, we've created an insert statement with the fields that we have highlighted up here. And we've also plugged in values to insert. Those values come from this area here. So we can specify dates, date times, times, and text. And so those values show up here according to the type of field that we're using. So the first value here is a date time, which is what date created is. Then we have a project ID, which is 0 in this case. We've got record owner, which is also blank, and that's a text field. We don't have anything there. And then we have a date field, which is estimated project start date, and that shows up here. So the values you put here are going to show up in your insert statement. Then you're ready to go and do an execute. And you get a little message here indicating what happened. All right, let's erase that insert statement, and we'll do an update statement next. This is very similar to the insert statement. However, the field names and then the values, in this case updated, are grouped together in pairs where you have the field name equal to a value, comma, field name equal to a value. And again, the field names come from here, the values come from here, very similar to the insert statement. Now I will press execute SQL. You get this message, 0 records were updated, and that's because we have a where clause here, which sets the project ID equal to 0. A project ID can never be 0. It always starts at 1 and gets larger. So for that reason, we actually didn't update anything. Now let's move on to the delete statement. If I press delete, we get a very simple statement here that doesn't refer to any columns other than in the where clause. And again, we have project ID set equal to 0. So if we click execute, we're going to not have any records deleted for the same reason. So obviously in the update case and here in the delete case, you're going to want to modify this where clause so that you target the records that you want to delete. And this is a way to protect you from making a mistake. Your auto-generated delete statement's not going to really do anything until you tweak it. If you want to delete all the records, you just do this and highlight the delete statements without a where clause. And if I were to press execute SQL here, I would end up deleting all the records in the table. All right, now we're going to delete the delete statement and work on a create statement. Now you may have been wondering, why do we have this drop down here? Well, the reason for that is that when you do a create statement, you're creating a new table. And in QuickBase, you have to specify which application this table is going to be in. You can't create a table without first having an application to put it in. Here are a list of all the applications and we'll choose AAA Project Manager, which is the current application that we've been working with. So this will end up creating a table within that application. Now when we press the create button, we can see the create statement. It tells QuNectODBC for QuickBase which application to put the table into, and then it also gives it some fields. And these fields here come from, again, this list right here. So it's saying do a date created field, which is of type date time, a project ID field, which is of integer type, and so on down the line. So we can execute this statement, and we'll create a table with these fields of these types in this application, whichever application we've chosen right there. The fields that are here are a function of the table you've picked here. What you want to do in the case of a create table statement is you want to pick a table that's very similar to the one that you want to create, and then choose the fields that you want of that table. That'll make your life a lot easier in terms of writing the SQL statement. Okay, let's delete this, and we'll move on to the alter statement. Now the alter statement adds fields, unlike the create table statement. It doesn't create a table, but it adds fields to a table, and once again it's going to add these fields to the table. Pretty straightforward. We can hit execute, and we'll get back our little message, and these fields have been added to the table. Last but not least is the drop command, which basically deletes a table. And that's pretty straightforward. It's going to delete whatever table you've chosen here. And that's your tour of QuNect SQL. Thank you.